7:30, so let's get started. Thank you all so much for joining us tonight. I think it's heavy rain out there, so we really appreciate you being here tonight with us. My name is Nicholas. I work as our marketing and community lead here at Chrysalis. And I'll just tell you a little bit about the agenda of tonight and then some housekeeping stuff, and we can get started. So first, actually, our CTO and co-founder of Chrysalis will give a few words from our behalf. Then we have Jed, who is the head of Rakuten RapidAPI. He will tell us a little bit about APIs and about how you can get started with the marketplace. And then we have 4 amazing student presentations from our current immersive bootcamp students. So they will show you how much you can achieve in just a few days. After that, we have some networking, we have some refreshments provided by Rakuten RapidAPI, and then we'll call it a night. And housekeeping stuff, there is a free Wi-Fi, it's code Chrysalis guest. If you see something really cool today, please tag us, code Chrysalis. And the bathrooms are all the way to the back to your right. But without further ado, thank you all so much for coming, and I'd like to invite Jan Van, who is the co-founder and CTO of Code Chrysalis, to the stage. Let's give a warm applause to Jan.
Hey, there are some new faces. Who's here for the first time? If you could raise your hands. Oh, sweet. Oh, very funny. Thank you all for being here. It's raining really badly upstairs, so I want to echo Nicholas. Thank you for coming. We're always really nervous about when the weather gets bad, because we've had events where 2 people show up, and with a wait list of, or with a RSVP of 30 or 40. So it's always a dicey situation. Our students have been working on this project, or these projects, for only 72 hours, 36 hours?
2 to 3.
Not very much time, 3 days, maybe 3 solid days that they've been able to focus on these. And I'm really excited to see them. We started this relationship with Rakuten RapidAPI almost over a year ago now, because we were looking for companies that could give our students real life experience. In the real world, you're under tough deadlines. Sometimes you have APIs that work really awesome and do all these things for you, and sometimes you have things that go a little bit out of your control. And also getting the experience to give presentations, professional presentations in front of people, is really what I think helps our students stand out from everyone else. I know we're not yet quite done with the course, but it feels like things are going so fast. It felt like it was only yesterday that I spoke with all of you, did the technicals with all of you, and now you are all full stack engineers, and it's pretty jarring coming from where I am. And I want to say you guys are really a testament to how much having a positive growth mindset can make, how big of a change it can create, how welcoming and warm of a culture, and how awesome of a place this can be. So thank you so much. I'm really inspired every day just watching you guys play hacky sack, juggle, and you guys are so talented. The amount of music that just gets played during breaks is pretty phenomenal. So thank you all so much for bringing this kind of energy to this basement of a basement. So yeah, I want to just let you all shine, so please support them.
Thank you, Jan. Next, I would like to introduce Jed, who is the head of Rakuten RapidAPI, and he will give a demonstration of what APIs are, how can you get started, and also talk to you a little bit about Rakuten RapidAPI. So let's give a warm applause for Jed.
So before I jump in and start talking, I want to maybe just thank Connie and Yan for like working with us, choosing to work with us. It's really important that we hear like real voice of like user feedback. We come here every class, we offer free credit to like all the students. And we come here and like take the knocks and hear what we can do to like make things better. So really it's a credit to like Code Chrysalis to giving us a chance. This stuff, volunteering our time and like spending Friday evenings, I would like do it for free. If I didn't need to take a paycheck, I'd like still do this. So tonight I thought I'd just tell you a little bit about the business that we're building, why I'm personally passionate about it, and maybe show you a bit about like the platform as well. And really where this all like leads up to is, okay, in a world where application development is going towards like microservices, APIs are a crucial part of that. So how can that accelerate your application development? And I guess we'll find out with what's possible in a period of 36 to 72 hours. Later on, I'm going to like show some demonstrations. I might need some volunteers to like test some of these services live and to see like what happens. We'll also be like testing this image, which kind of feels like, I think about 60% of the time for me. Okay, so we can't do a talk without PowerPoint, so here goes. Let me start by introducing myself. My name is Jed. I'm the head of Rakuten RapidAPI. My background is in like building and scaling new tech ventures. Really, I'm looking for the next, what's the $100 million idea or $1 billion idea. Working with startups, that's the stuff I'm really passionate about, right? Which is why we spend our time here, and also why this business, I think, is really, it's important for me, right? Because I think through what we do, we can help empower not just API providers, but also like the developers out there in the community who are like building stuff. It says I'm an MBA from NCR, which basically means I spent too long and too much money at school. And if any of you want to connect with me, my email and Twitter handle is up there. Okay, so let's lay some ground, right? What are APIs and why are they important? I assume everybody in the room knows that API stands for Application Programming Interface. And it's just a way for different computer systems to communicate with each other. Why that's relevant today is that APIs have evolved beyond just like a technology, right? What they actually do is deliver service, and if you can deliver service, it means you can meter, which means you can monetize from that. And they can deliver all kinds of functionality and data in the cloud today. They help you do things like simplify and accelerate your application development, because you don't need to build everything from scratch and then maintain all this extra code when somebody else can do it for you. These services, often they are more cost effective and higher quality than you can do it yourself, because this is all people do, right? Think about a company that does email delivery. They have 5 guys working on building and maintaining the service. That's probably a lot more resource than a large company would put on a mail delivery service. And the really interesting one is maybe like innovation, right? Imagine doing things like computer vision or anything in like the artificial intelligence stack. APIs let you do that, within minutes, instead of having to have like that capability, that competence within your team, and having to figure out where do you like allocate resources to do these things. Other reasons that I'm really excited, this thing. It's not a very deep chart, but we see ourselves as operating, with 2 like really powerful tailwinds, right? The first one is this idea of like native API companies. So these are companies that are like pure play. They use APIs to distribute services and monetize. So some of the hottest tech brands today, companies like Twilio, like Stripe, like SendGrid, that are just killing it, becoming incredibly valuable using APIs to distribute services. This chart, in some ways, I've like given up on maintaining because like these valuations change and they keep going up. So forgive me if they're out of date. The other reason that gets me really excited is actually what we see in technology today, where software developers, all of you in the room, the alums who have like come from past batches and like, this brilliant mind sitting here today, you're all becoming more powerful organizations in corporates or wherever it is that you're going to start working. You are not a cost center, you create value, you are going to be decision makers. All right, just some data points. In 2018, GitHub got acquired by Microsoft for $7.5 billion. That valued each user at $300 per user. If you look at GitLab, they received a funding round in Q3 of last year that valued each user at $1,000. That was like 4 months difference. That's a pretty like strong trend in my view. Think about companies like Slack that get adopted at the grassroots level, a lot in part by like developers. And suddenly like it's everywhere, right? And then organizations have to respond to what their employees or the developers need. So notice something about these companies, right? The Twilios and the Stripes, etc. These service providers do something very specific. In the end, the API or REST API is just a way of standardization. It's a wrapper. Right? There's a lot of specialization and expertise that goes into maintaining SMTP servers if you're in the space of email delivery, of negotiating carrier termination rates if you're like a telco. But these services are not, they're pretty agnostic, they're pretty applicable to a lot of use cases. And so there's a lot of value in actually being able to access all of these services. For API providers today, something I noticed, I think 2-3 years back when I started looking at this space was that is this idea of a digital ocean. This pie chart comes from Apogee's 2016 State of the APIs report. And the takeaway here is that 90% of API call traffic goes to 10% of providers, or 10% of APIs. So extrapolate that to like the general API landscape. Let's assume that this logic stands, which is a safe assumption. It means that for smaller API providers, probably pretty hard to get to be successful. I think somewhere in those orange slices are the next like the Twilios and SendGrids of like tomorrow. Part of our mission is to help these people be successful, level the playing field so that they can be the next unicorn like superstars. In terms of actually using these APIs, on the other side of it, what we saw was that for developer users, it sucks. Like that journey of making use of APIs to be like truly a part of like Agile and like CI/CD, today it sucks, right? People talk about having great portals, beautiful documentation, all these sorts of things. And they're great. Stripe does a good job, Twilio does a good job. There are these companies that are like setting the standards. But everybody sets the standards their own way. This process of like navigating through each service provider and figuring out who does what the endpoints are, it's still a manual process. It's necessarily manual. There's no getting around it. And being able to find stuff, and by some estimates today, there are like between 20 and 30,000 APIs. If you assume that there's 2 APIs per provider, that's maybe 15,000 portals. Imagine like being able to find all that stuff and then having to go through it and then having to manually process all of this. And then you're not done yet. You still need to get access. So what happens when access is not on a self-service basis? Pricing is unclear. Policy changes, like Twitter, for example, they decide like, yeah, we're just gonna like take an endpoint down, we're gonna throttle this. It's terrible. Then for connecting, often these portals don't have like the tooling. You can't subscribe on the spot, and then you've got to like manage this dependency problem of like what happens if an API breaks. And then probably the last bit that's really tedious is like actually your own management. Right, so for every API service that you use today, you need one account per API service, you need one key per API, you need to make one payment per service every single month, and then you have a dashboard to like track and follow this every single month. And so some of these problems were basically why, you know, we decided to go out and do this, right? If Stripe is $18 billion today and SendGrid is $3 billion, what happens if we like bring them all in one place? That's the $1 billion idea with a B that I'm hoping, right? So we went out and go build like an API marketplace, or think of it as an app store for APIs. Today our footprint is 10,000 APIs and 1 million users. And we are really happy to be working with providers like Twilio and SendGrid who are on the platform today. For our users, all the devs in the room, this is what it's about. We want to provide a best-in-class selection of APIs. We work really hard about it. We want you to be able to like test and connect to services in the cloud. We want to make pricing transparent. We want pricing to be at parity as by going direct to provider. And then we want to solve monitoring and management all in one single platform. That's the goal anyway. We're not quite all the way there, but it's a start. So I'm going to switch gears a little bit now and just show a quick demo of the platform. We're going to see how to like find stuff, to test and integrate, connect to services, and then to like manage that. And we're also going to do a couple of like demos. Depends on what's interesting for people. We can do stuff like machine vision, or like sending an SMS or an email. All right, so let's come back to this picture. This is what our UI looks like. That's the domain, english.api.rakuten.net. Japanese users, it's just api.rakuten.net, and there's our Japanese site. After you create an account, there's a few ways to look for things. One is obviously the search bar. So if I search for something like machine learning, you'll see we have something like 90 different results, and you can check all of them out. Another way to find stuff is to scroll down and to look at these horizontal rows that we call collections, and you can scroll through and see different categories. Something that we do to like manage the dependency risk of using a public API is actually to show performance statistics. So, for instance, looking at SendGrid's API, you see it's got a popularity score of 9 out of 10. It's got a latency of about 100 milliseconds and a call success rate of 98%. And this here is real runtime data because our SDK sits at the application level. It's not an SLA. One of the really nice things that we do to remove friction in the use of flow is actually by standardization, and that starts with the portal. So every API provider has their own branded portal, but the layout is the same for every user. And we have 4 parts to each portal. One is endpoints, where we do most of the work. There's a details tab, which is documentation. There's a discussions tab, which is a kind of a community forum. And then a pricing tab, where you can subscribe to plans. So let's go back to endpoints, and let's close the loop by testing that image. We'll use this endpoint, which is a post call to describe the image, and we're using the file. So all I need to do is to choose the file. And we hit test endpoint. And now we move to the right, you see immediately you get a HTTP response, so that call got fired. And we can check the response below. So in this case, the thing that we want is a caption. And Microsoft's computer vision algorithm says it's a dog sitting in front of a computer with 67% probability. So that's not bad for a general purpose machine vision algorithm. So a couple more tests. One is we can send an email to somebody in the room if there's a volunteer with the email address. Any takers? Now? Thank you. So to send an email, again, so same design for the portal. I'm already subscribed to this, so I'm going to skip that part. We use this endpoint to post and send an email, and we configure the JSON in the middle here. I pre-written this, and all I need to do is to drop Now's email address, which is
SETANI@gmail.
Did I get it right? Now you're Satani.
Yeah.
Okay. So we get test endpoint again. Looks like you returned 202, which should be okay. And now, checking. Nervous wait.
Yes, I
Yes.
got the email. Yeah.
Thank you. So we didn't cheat and go to Outlook. And let's do one more. Let's send an SMS to somebody in the room. Derek? Middle, you'll get an SMS from Rakuten API with like this message, and all I need is your phone number. You volunteered, so. Did I get it right?
Yeah.
All right. Here you go. Lucky fingers. All right, thanks for playing. Okay, so yeah, so coming back to this, I'll wrap up. Some of the most rewarding work we do is when we work with like early stage companies, right? Because these are companies building like new value propositions, but also the reason why we love coming here and doing this. Because we do hackathons and stuff where we see prototypes actually become real life companies. Some of the companies we work with are, an example is a company like Rakuten, based out of Bangalore, India. They do programmatic video, often for like e-commerce use cases, where abandoned cart is a big issue. And so what their platform does is generate personalized video content, short form, like 30-second video that's tailored to each user. So you shop for a pair of Ray-Ban sunglasses, drop it into cart, and then never hit purchase. You might get an email with a video that says, hey, whoever you are, you know, are you interested in sunglasses, to remind you to come back. And they know that better personalization equals better like transactions. So they use our APIs for personalization features like, let's say IP geolocation, detects a user's location to presume some language. And in that case, you can put a text overlay in a video in somebody's native language. And to do that, it requires a translation API, for example. Another example is ShopBrain, which is an e-commerce company. They build an AI engine to aggregate product pricing data. They were looking to expand into like the travel vertical for a few obvious reasons. One, it's that when people need to travel, it's not like buying stuff. People can defer that, but if you need to travel, you need to execute on that. Ticket sizes are also higher, and thirdly, people are more price sensitive. So they are willing to actually check and look for this stuff. They actually, to expand the travel, they needed a source of information for travel data or flight pricing. So they use our APIs for stuff like that. So really excited to be working with these companies. That's it. I think I'm done talking. We need to turn it over to like the real stars. Couple of things. I brought stickers, cool stickers that are sitting in the front. We're also giving away like free credit if any of you are developers and are interested. I guess we do that as a follow-up event, right?
Yes. So we asked them on the registration if they're interested. So
Cool.
yes,
All right.
taken care of.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
Thank you, Jed, for the presentation. And next I would actually like to invite my colleague, the Dean of Programs called Chrysalis, Heather. She will be emceeing the 4 student presentations. So please, Heather, I leave it up to you. And I'm really looking forward to seeing the student presentations. Thanks.
So thank you so much to Jed from Rakuten RapidAPI. It has been my honor to be with CC10 for the past 7 weeks. As Jan said earlier, at the same time, I know that 7 weeks is not very long, so I'm just astounded by how much you all have been able to accomplish in just 7 weeks. And just to echo, they've built the apps that you're about to see in 3 days, while juggling actually literally juggling, and taking a massive halfway assessment and preparing for longer individual tech talks next week. So this is just incredible. I also say that it feels like too short because whenever we get to this point of the cohort, it means that they will soon be flying free as beautiful butterflies. And so this is just incredible. So I don't want to speak too much about this, but it's just an awesome, awesome opportunity to work with Code Chrysalis and get to see people come through. Congratulations on the people who have already been through this. And just can't wait to see how you guys shine. So without further ado, I'm going to present Team Cinemap. They are going to be guiding you on a cartographic exploration of cinematic experiences in Tokyo. So I'll let them explain more about that. So let's welcome Team Cinemap.
Right. Cool. Just a moment, please. Excellent. Thank you for waiting. Okay, so hello everyone. How is everyone doing tonight? Great. So we are Team Cinema. And we are?
I'm Minnie. I was full stack engineer for this project. I was responsible for integrating backend and frontend.
Hi, I'm Yu. I worked on the server side on this application.
Hey everyone, my name is Diallo and I also work server side on this application.
And my name is Vic, and I worked on the front end with React and also on the design and branding of the application. So we had an idea. Mr. Yu here loves movies. And Minnie and Diallo always have some trouble finding where movies are playing in Tokyo, right? They want to find the showtimes for the movies they want to watch. So we thought we could solve that with an app. Yay! And we created Cinemap. And Cinemap is an app for finding where movies are playing. It's web-based, easy to use, and it's responsive. So Minnie here will guide us through them.
Thank you, Vic. So I will show you our really nice app. So here it is. Ready?
Here, it's
Yeah. So,
Next
yeah.
one.
Okay.
We got it.
Yeah. So here's our app. So, and you can see this beautiful logo that was actually made by Vic. Thank you so much. So yeah, find where to watch your movie. So what are we watching? Let's say I want to watch Joker, and I don't know what cinemas shows Joker. So I'm gonna type it in. And while we're waiting for the results, you can see this cute cat. That's also courtesy of me and Vic. Yay, we have our results! Yay, we also have really cool map. So what it does, actually, it shows all the cinemas that's showing the Joker. And if you hover over the icon, you can actually see the name of the cinema and the showtimes. And if you scroll down, you can actually see the movie info, like a really cool poster and the summary and IMDb rating and the duration, which is actually the courtesy of IMDb API. And if you scroll down a bit, yay, we have our results, like the cinemas that are showing Joker. We have all the showtimes, it's filtered by days, and we also have like this tiny items that show, this is the courtesy of weather API, shows weather for this current day. So like if you wanna like just to know what weather will it be, so if you don't feel like going to the cinema if it's raining, yeah, that's really easy to do it with our app. And actually, Vic told before that our app is responsive. So this is thanks to Material UI, and you can actually easily use it on mobile as well. Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah. So yeah, this was the demo, and now I'm going to turn to Diallo, who will talk about our app.
Great, so I want to introduce some of the technology we use for this project. So once again, we are a responsive single-page application, and we're written in JavaScript. So for our servers, we're using Express.js as well as Axios. Our front end is created in React, and like Minnie mentioned, we also used Material UI for some of our stylistic elements. And then the map element that we have is, we're using Google Maps for that. And then lastly, our application is deployed on Heroku. Next, I want to talk about the APIs that we use for this project. So we actually used 3 different APIs, 2 of which come from Rakuten RapidAPI. The first one is a weather API called Dark Sky. So this is the one that we're using to get the information about the weather forecast. Our second API is called IMDb. This is giving us information about the IMDb rating of the movie, the duration, a quick synopsis of the movie, and the image for the poster. And finally, the third API we're using is an external API called the International Showtimes API, which is giving us information about cinemas, the movies that are available, and the showtimes. So this is what the architecture for our application looks like. When the user searches for a movie, our front end makes a call to our server, and then that server calls the 3 different APIs that I just mentioned, and then we return all of that information to the front end. So I'll pass back to Minnie.
So yeah, I'm going to talk about the challenges that we face while building this app. So I think the biggest challenge was leveraging multiple APIs. So we're using like not really much, 3 of them, but like filtering that data and actually like integrating that data in one response was challenging. And the other thing that each API has its own response time, so you kind of need to track that down and think about how you can manage to keep your front end responsive as well. So that was a great learning experience actually. And last but not least, we use Material UI, right? And it's really great library that was built by Google, and it gives you a lot of functionality, but it's kind of a bit challenging again to customize that, to make it align with your application theme. So yeah, it was really nice opportunity to learn more about that. So yeah, I'm gonna give word to you. That will talk about our future features.
So we are thinking several future features. First, sending showing direction to each movie theaters on the map, and second, showing restaurant, available restaurants around each movie theaters, and showing movie weather information, hourly weather information in addition to daily one. And the rest detect where you are and suggest near movie theaters around you by using geolocation API. And for now, application is only for Tokyo, but we want to extend the area to other parts of Japan and other countries.
Great, so before we pass it off to the next group, we wanted to say thank you to everyone for joining us tonight, and a special thank you to Rakuten RapidAPI for making this project possible. So, once again, we are Team Cinemap, and we are
Mini?
Diallo.
Vic.
These are all of our GitHub handles, so please feel free to follow us. And like I mentioned, Cinemap is deployed on Heroku, so if you're curious, feel free to scan this QR code and try it out yourselves. We would love to hear your thoughts. And we'll be at the networking session afterwards, so feel free to talk to us and ask us questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much again, Team Cinemap. Amazing. All right, so our next team made an app that helps you jumpstart your trip to anywhere. So without further ado, let's welcome Team Event Trip.
PCs in a row, maybe the problem's on the receiving side.
Yeah, okay. Well, we can try. Is it the right one?
Yeah, it's
Yeah, I think so.
it isn't.
It's working. All right, sorry about the technical difficulties again. Our app name is called Event Trip, and we're going to take a couple minutes to kind of explain what we've made in these 2 days. This is a Rakuten RapidAPI project, so again, just to reiterate, we were able to use the Rakuten RapidAPI marketplace to access a lot of different APIs, and we decided to make a quick app that you're able to kind of jumpstart your trip to anywhere in the world. But before we get into kind of the details, we'll just do kind of a quick introduction of everyone on the team. So my name is Derek. I was focused mostly on the front end.
My name is Nate. I was also in charge of front end.
I'm Yukio. I focused on back end.
Hi, I'm No. I worked on backend as well.
And my name is Igor. I was in charge of pulling everything that this lovely bunch drew into one full stack app.
Cool. All right, so I'm just going to quickly introduce the app and kind of what it can do and the idea behind it. So again, this is an easy way to bootstrap your trip to anywhere. So it's just kind of a way where you can jump into our app and quickly enter a little bit of information to get a quick snapshot of what a trip could look like. So the basic idea is you can put in a city, the days you want to go, and then a budget for the actual accommodation. And then once you click search, you're able to kind of see, okay, I can stay in this type of hotel in this city with this type of budget. And I'm also able to kind of go to some of these events that you might not have seen before, which is kind of the idea. You can get a quick snapshot of what sort of events you can see in the city. So without further ado, Igor will do a quick demonstration of our app.
Okay, and we start off with this beautiful back screen where we can actually get into the Christmassy mood, I guess. And with that idea, let's assume that Derek actually invited all of us to, that Derek invited all of us to spend Christmas with him in his hometown of Seattle. And the Christmas will be coming in 2019, month is 12th and 24th. And we all know that hotels during Christmas season are kind of a bit more expensive, so let's say the max we can spend on a hotel is $250. Yeah, okay. And if we wait a little bit, we got our hotels first. So we actually are getting hotels available, not just a list of hotels. These are hotels that are available during our search time. You can see how many rooms it has left. You can see the price. It's $150. That's nice. And you get several to choose from. So you can look for something you like. And the same for events. You get a list of events that you can just zoom through, find something you like, and you see when it starts, at what time, at what place, and you can get more information if you want. And with that, I'll switch to Nate to proceed with how we came up with this idea in general and the technologies.
Okay, so now I'll be going through the process of how we made that app. So first, we gathered and brainstormed several ideas by looking at Rakuten APIs that we were interested in. Then we shared our ideas as a team, and through democracy we came up with hotels, and we came up with the idea to use hotel APIs and event APIs to create an event planning app. And then after that we decided which features we would have as our minimum viable product, and which features would be part of our future features. So then once we started creating the app, here are some of the technologies we used. So for deployment, we used Heroku. For our front end, we used React. And for our back end, we used a Node.js Express server, which would call these APIs, which are all part of Rakuten RapidAPI. So for events, we used the Ticketmaster API and the Eventful. For our hotel, we used Booking. And in order to filter our prices, we used two APIs called REST countries, which would convert a country to a currency code, and we use the currency converter to actually convert the currency to US dollars. So now I'll show how the app actually works. So we start in the front end. The main React component would be whatever the user inputs, and then it would get passed down to the server, which would call the endpoints that that get the data from the APIs. It would go back to the server, and then the front end would render it as two components, one for the hotels and one for the events. So now I'll transition over to Yukio, who will talk about our challenges.
Hi, I talk about struggles we encountered. Our teamwork was really effective, so we could overcome these struggles. At first, we struggled to get the data from the APIs, which we want. So, for example, the API, which event API, when we fetch the data from event API, the data was XML, so we had to convert XML to the JSON data. And also, yesterday morning, we found that our hotel budget filter function didn't work because of the API. So we had to create another function to filter the data. And also we struggle to determine which is MVP and which is future feature. So we talked to each other frequently and we decided them. I'll switch to now.
Okay, so I'm gonna talk about future features. First of all, we want to make our app more responsive. And to improve our users' experience, we were thinking of adding some additional features. So we want to enrich our event data more. So using multiple APIs, for example, Meetup or TripAdvisors. If our user could see search history or filter search by event category, that will be amazing. Also, we enjoy this project so much, and this is our first API project, and we had only a few days, but we feel we have made a lot of progress, and we're really, really happy about this. We would like to say thank you so much, Jet and the Rakuten API team for giving us this great opportunity.
Yeah. So thank you all for listening to our presentation. You can find our GitHubs here. You can also scan this QR code to go look at our GitHub itself. So thank you again for listening.
Okay, thank you so much, Team Event Trip. Is that invitation, Derek, open to staff as well to come to Seattle?
No.
Okay, I know. All right. So our next team is going to show you how easy creating travel itineraries can be with their app. So please join me in welcoming Team Planet.
Hello and good evening, everyone. We are happy to present to you this little progressive web app that we came up with this week. We call it Planet. It is a little mini travel itinerary planner made possible by Rakuten RapidAPI. But first, I want to introduce you to my lovely team over here. So we have Daniel as our tech lead-sama. He is a former SAT teacher and singer. My name is Steffi, and I worked on design and front end for this application. I'm a model and content creator. We have Z right over here, and he is our back-end guy. He is a recent graduate from NYU and a dancer. And Eriko over in the corner here, she was our full stack girl, and she previously was a systems engineer. and is a Starbucks enthusiast. And we created Planet.
And this is Tanaka-san. He is a middle-aged Japanese guy, and he wants to plan an unforgettable family trip to Shanghai. He's somewhat comfortable with using technology, but he also doesn't want to spend too much time using technology that's too complicated. He's also a super planner, and he has to plan out every single detail of his trip before he goes. But planning is hard. Why? Because first, he has to keep track of all the emails he got from all the reservations he has made, so that he can know when and where to go. And second, he's used to like writing down the schedule of his entire trip on his notebook, and that means there's a lot of notes he has to keep track of, so that he knows where to go. And third, just a lot of stress. But luckily, with the help of our wonderful app, Planet, he can easily plan a very wonderful, unforgettable vacation.
Okay, so we're going to go through a quick demo of our app. If you would like to scan the QR code, you can follow along. Okay, so we're going to start by selecting the country you want to go to. In this case, we're going to select China. The city is going to be Shanghai. And we're going to take a 3-day trip. So let's go from the 23rd to the 25th. And then when you're ready, click Planet. Alright, so in the top left, we have our destination, which is Shanghai, China. The duration of the trip, which is 3 days. In the top right, you have the currency exchange rate. And then if you look over here at the dashboard, we have 3 days for our trip, and we have, for your convenience, a weather icon. In this case, it seems like it could be a mix of rainy and sunny. So, alright, when you're ready to add something to your itinerary, we click Add. We can put in one of the spots. In this case, let's go to U Garden. Alright, let's add another one. Let's add Oriental Pearl TV Tower. Additionally, this app has multiple language functionality. We can also add a location of Chinese. We're going to add Jing'an Temple. And when you're ready, click the map icon in the top right-hand corner, and you can see our destinations. So we have markers for each location. Everything is in order. So if you click on A, you'll see the address of U Garden. If you click on B, you'll see Oriental Pearl TV Tower. And if you click on C, you'll see Jing'an Temple. And that's it.
Yeah, so a little bit about the technologies we use to make this app. As you may know, Chrysalis is a 12-week JavaScript bootcamp, and so we used our JavaScript knowledge along with the Vue framework on the front end, and through Node.js we were able to deploy it through the help of Google's Firebase development platform, which offers serverless hosting and NoSQL real-time database. And of course, Rakuten RapidAPI.
Yeah, here are some of the APIs we've been using. So first, we're using this currency exchange API to get the exchange rate between the currency used by user's current location and the currency used by the country that the user is going to. And second, we're also using this IP geolocation API to get the information about user's current location. We're also using Google Maps API to build our Google Map view. And we're also using GeoDB Cities API to get a list of cities in the country selected by the user so that they can also select the city as their destination. And last but not least, we're also using Open Weather API to get weather information.
So I'd like to talk about future features. First is user authentication. After registers, we can your data stored in our services on account. Next is map view. We already have a map function, but we want to add more functionality in our application. Third is a recommendation. If our application suggests nice restaurant or nice sports sightseeing spots, Tanaka-san
will definitely be happy. So many ideas came up. We want to add as much functionality as possible. We enjoyed coding every day.
Alright, along the way we had a few technical challenges. As we're working on a team, we tried to do a code fast, optimized later approach so we can get the product ready. This meant that we had to kind of practice good design. A lot of times we had a variable name conflicts, so we would be like, what does this mean? Like, which one is this referring to? So we had a lot of issues with that, and we just kind of had to make sure that we were on the same page at all times. Next, we had some merge errors. So if you're familiar with GitHub, we often had to git pull and git push in order to make sure we're on the same version of the branch. Lastly, since Rakuten RapidAPI has many APIs to choose from, all different quality, we had to make sure to check the ratings feature to make sure that we were using the most up-to-date. And I want to thank Rakuten RapidAPI for giving us the opportunity. It was a lot of fun and we learned a lot. I want to thank Chrysalis as well for putting us on a team together because we had a lot of fun.
All right. Again, my name is Steffi.
I'm Daniel.
I'm Eriko.
I'm Zoo.
We are happy to answer any questions you have about the APIs we use and our app at the networking session later. Thank you.
Okay. Another wonderful app and presentation from CC10. And so our last team for the night is revolutionizing your bathroom experience. So please welcome Team Reflectra.
So hard to sum up something in one sentence, yeah.
Perfect.
This will be explained the light.
Good afternoon, everyone. We are Team Reflector, and we came to show you what we've done during the past few days. And we want to start with introducing ourselves.
Yeah. My name is Naoto. I work on front end.
My name is Baro. I worked on back end.
I'm David. I worked on the front end.
My name is Eugene. I work on back end. My name is Fraser. I was the tech lead working across the stack, well, mainly dealing with DevOps issues.
And we created an app, Reflector, which is an open source smart mirror app. And we use the newest machine learning technology to recognize the user's face. And based on that, we give the user personalized feedback. And now we would like to demonstrate it. This lamp is to make the face look brighter, which is the software. And I will also help more on my phone.
So let's start demo. This is our app, Reflectra. This app, first we detect our face exists or not. If my face exists on webcam, application the user by face recognition, and user will show news headline or time or weather corresponding to user's favorite, while brush their teeth or comb my hair. For example, in the morning, like that. We go back to the slide.
Yes, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about the technology we use. So we started with, for the front end with Vue and Vuex because we're very familiar with it, and we knew we could create a prototype fairly quickly with it. We also used Udify for the design and structure of the content, which was important for this app. We also used an external API that we found on GitHub that was used for recognizing if somebody was standing in front of the camera or not. This all was tied with the backend, which was done in Node and deployed on Rakuten. We also use a MongoDB database to store the preferences from our users, so it could be like news or weather or location preferences. And of course we use the Rakuten APIs to fetch information we needed for this app. In this case it was Kairos for the face recognition and Bing News for the content. And now I'll let Eugene talk about how it worked individually.
Yeah, so I'm going to talk a little about the architecture. So how Naoto mentioned earlier, first the detects if the face is present. If the face is present, it's going to send it to our backend. Then once it hits our backend, it's going to send that data, a snapshot, to Kairos, and Kairos will then, from its database, send back who this person is. And then from our backend, it will send to our own database, and in our own database, we store each person's name and the type of news preferences they would like to see. So then that goes back to our backend, sending to the news API. The news API will get the topics that the user had stored as preferences, and then it'll send that back to the front end. Yeah. And as for future features, well, it is a mirror, so we're not exactly supposed to touch it. So it'd be nice to add some sort of maybe gestures to make some adjustments or voice control. Also, it would be nice to show other social media feeds, for example, Twitter or the top posts of the subreddit. And if you look close enough, you can see that our weather API wasn't exactly working, so that's also a future development that we would like to implement.
Okay, so I'll talk a little bit about the challenges we faced and the lessons we learned. The lesson we learned is finding the right API, and actually, when it comes to things like machine learning, there's a variety of quality of models out there. I mean, even if you had an auto standing like this and then standing like that, it was only 70% sure it was the same person, which isn't great for almost exactly the same picture. So finding the right API that worked quickly and could give us a reasonably accurate response was quite difficult. Working through documentation, trying to figure out all the little ins and outs of those different APIs took a long time, especially as part of finding that right API. When it came to deployment, there were some interesting issues around, we were using lots of different cloud services. So it was a big learning experience for us in things like whitelisting for IP addresses, things like that. I know some of the APIs didn't like the fact that we were accessing them from different IP addresses. That was kind of an interesting problem to try and work around. And in general, webcams and images are a really interesting challenge, because when you start using images, the files get very large, and everything that you're passing around really slows down your application. So it was, and so we had used some interesting techniques to compress the resolution of the photo before we started working with it, which was a really good bit of work by Naoto to make sure that it actually functioned in a reasonably quick timescale. So, thank you very much for joining us this evening. You can find our GitHub handles there, and there is a link to our GitHub repo, so you can have a look at the way we implemented it, and feel free to use it yourselves. And the link to Heroku is in the GitHub link. So yeah, thank you very much, and please ask us about it in the networking session. So thank you, Ria.
Okay. Thank you very much for that refreshing experience. So again, I want to remind everyone that all of these apps were built from scratch in 3 days, which is pretty incredible, as I'm sure you all will agree. So with that, this concludes the presentation portion of our event tonight. So let's give a big hand for CC's friends. And I am going to turn it back over to Nicholas, who will lead us on to the next portion of the event.
Well, actually, the only thing that we have left is, of course, to give also a warm thank you to Jed and Rakuten RapidAPI for making all of this happen. And they are also kind enough to sponsor our refreshments for the evening. So we have some drinks and food back there, so please help yourself. And if you have any questions to the student teams, please grab them and ask anything you have in mind. But that concludes the official part of tonight, so I wish you stay with us for a while and get to know each other, and thank you all for coming tonight. Cheers.